watching the clock, 10,000 hours go by. I keep putting in work, the tears are filling my eyes. I swear I've never been tested like this, but this is mine. It's not a matter of chance, just a matter of time. Never look back. If something's standing in my way, I always push back. If something seemed impossible, I never took that. Nah, cause now I know better. Can't stop, won't stop, I won't quit ever. As far as won't take me, the highest fall, it won't break me. The blood and sweat is what made me. I'ma get mine, just a matter of time.
Today's matchup: Griffin, KT Rolster, SK Telecom T1, Hanwha Life Esports. The Fantastic Run.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to LCK Summer 2018. I'm Atlas. This is, of course, Papa Smithy, and we have got one hell of a day. Of course, Robo Atlas just let you know, but man, Griffin versus KT, the rematch. Is Griffin going to strike back, Papa?
It's a Vengeance Day, the first Vengeance Day for Griffin. They lost to a FLICKR, but that was second round robin, so that vengeance might be served cold much later in the season. This is the only opponent in the first round robin that Griffin dropped a match to, and it wasn't a close one. It was very convincing for Griffin on the day to be just taken down in the early game kind of surgically by KT. Not really what KT's known for. If they back it up here, maybe we actually have an opponent that Griffin doesn't come up against with any sort of ease.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens, because that first match, what was it, 23 minutes or something like that? Absolute shellacking, if ever I've seen one. Can they turn it around, though? Because the meta has changed a little bit, and it was the Bruise Bros 2 games in a row, Pop Smithy, that was able to take them down.
It does feel like the two losses for Griffin are kind of achievable losses in terms of looking in VOD reviewing and coming up with an answer. We have the first one where it was early game from KT that blew away Griffin. If you look back to the Afrika loss, it's 2 games of the Lucian Braum, and the comp needed a little bit more that they didn't quite get in the pick and ban. So you do look at them and say, theoretically, achievable fixes. But KT have also iterated. KT coming off winning the Telecom War. They had a lot to fix from there. But KT on their day can actually beat any team in the world. That is the magic of KT. Sadly, they can also lose to any team in the world. I think they're going to be up for this challenge. I think they were preparing for Griffin today, maybe even over SK Telecom as an opposition. They come in, consensus, the best team in Korea. If you look at this ladder, they are 9-2. They are clear of the rest of the teams. See a lot of teams in the hunt, and KT Rolster certainly right in that pack.
Well, it's all about the top 6, Papa Smithy, because everyone at positive points, SKT, MVP, Jin Air, and BBQ, certainly on the bottom end of that rung, but this top 6 is so incredibly close. Gen G sort of slinking their way up, locking down second place, but KT Rolster, they were a 6th place team start of the week, and now all the way up into 3rd after a good performance against SKT, that Telecom War, getting them an extra point, chucking them further forward. They win here today against Griffin. Top of the table is going to be very, very exciting.
This race for the playoffs, Atlas, we're no closer to knowing who will get there. Our second series, Hanwha Life versus SKT, is about the teams in the hunt. Hanwha Life definitely closer to the top 5 than everyone else. Only 5 can be up there. And we have one team in this first series who is the consensus #1. It is Griffin. Looking at their roster here, they're sticking with Chovy. No start for Rather in game #1.
Yeah, actually, I like it a lot. Of course, starting Rather, but they're not playing that funnel strategy the last time we saw them, and they looked amazing. Griffin being able to take down Humwa Life very easily. Chovy going to be starting this time around. Certainly understandable here against the tough opposition in KT Rolster, especially in the eyes of Griffin.
When you're on the red side and have to ban away some of those must bans, the two junglers and of course the Aatrox, the frustration is there's so many undefeated picks like the Trundle and Vlad, 7-0 for Sword, for Tarzan and Viper respectively. And that means there's still going to be meta stuff that needs to be banned. There's not that flexibility on the red side. KT will open on the red side. Let's see if they can find a way to repeat that round 1 performance today against Griffin.
We'll see whether it's going to be Smeb starting as we move over to the other side of the rift. On the red side, like you say, is going to be KT Rolster. And is it going to be the captain locking down that top spot? I have a feeling it is going to be. As there he is, the gentleman on the top side. Score, UCal, Deft, and Marta going to round out the roster as per usual. We'll see whether they can have a repeat performance like you were talking about. And we'll see whether it's going to be Sword that's going to cop most of it this time. We'll see whether Score spends some time on the top side of the map.
That was the big priority from KT last time out, exposing Sword, who at the time was really dominant in the top lane, taking him down even in counterpick scenarios through smart jungle pathing. Coming through from Score, who may once again be the most important man on the rift for KT Rolster. Tarzan and Score have been our two best junglers in summer season, mostly about the pathing. Both of them are loving the Trundle recently, although KT is a kindred OG. Looking at the match history, again the series against SKT was not fantastic at all from a KT perspective, but the win over FLICKR was a bit more convincing. Speaking of Griffin, lost to FLICKR and then smashed Hanwha Life. And that means their KDA's way back up.
Yep, all the way back up, making this weird-looking muffin that Smeb is poking out the top of at the moment with his, what is it, delicious raspberry? Something
you think a
like
raspberry
that, bit of a
muffin?
raspberry center of the muffin.
If this was, we were in Korea, so I guess it's probably red bean paste.
Hey,
actually.
that's true, but it is delicious, guys. I know it sounds bad. It doesn't sound like a dessert when you say red bean, but damn, it is tasty.
Free advice, if you ever come to Korea and think it's a jam donut, no, it is in fact red bean paste. As this is the
And
match.
it's probably a dumpling as well.
True. And this is the match we're talking about. First round robin, 23-minute first game, 43-minute second game. They definitely stabilized. I think KT really had the measure of Griffin in a very KT fashion. They just seemed to understand where they were strong before any other team were able to. Took them down cleanly in that first round robin. That was, of course, KT's vengeance after losing the Telecom War Atlas we were discussing before the broadcast came on live. Here's an interesting stat. KT, best team in the early game. No surprise, been the story ever since 2017 spring when this roster came together. While Griffin is still strong in the early game, it is a lot more passive. They don't generate as much gold. They don't get big farm leads in every lane like KT is known to. They rise from 8th at 10 minutes to 6th at 15 minutes, and yet they are the team that has dominated the league, which lets you know if you want to attack them like KT did, you attack them early.
Yeah, the interesting stat that I'm looking at here is the fact that Gen G in number 2 and very, very close behind that of KT Rolster. But KT, certainly no surprises there that they do get the most gold in the early game because they are, like you say, our best early game team. Speaking of the best, Smeb has managed to creep up to top KDA in the league for the top lane.
And an LCK total of 12-3. OGN loves to slide in those historic stats. His cannon, very well known. On hit last time, but of course, an AP cannon.
But still managed to
remembered.
Yeah, exactly. The team fight victory with the ultimate as well as an on-hit cannon. That was crazy in that last team fight against SKT.
And it was less about a matchup like Kennen versus Mundo and more about the attention that KT put into topside to shut down Sword, who was picked into a winning matchup but lost it through an into the old Aatrox on the day. In the mid lane, we could have fireworks Atlas. Chovy versus UCal. UCal been loving the Yasuo recently. He is a Swain du jour. But we know that if Chovy can get the Zoe, which he often does on blue side, they will first pick it for their talented mid lane.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see this matchup, and I want Zoe versus Yasuo. I want it back-to-back. I want it switched roles.
Let's reverse it, baby.
Yeah, that's what I want to see. Both of these players, as you can see illustrated right there, Yasuo players, but UCal with double the KDA. Damn, it's looking good. And let's have a look at how many of our LCK viewers here in Korea have voted. Damn, that is some big numbers. Maybe not quite Telecom War, but still definitely up there. And the Griffin fans have had their voices heard.
It's just so chilling to see Griffin winning fan votes again and again. People will come in and say, but of course they're first place. While that matters, history, name value, so much is incorporated into fan votes. and sometimes purely just fandom, purely just blind faith. Griffin has more of the fan vote today. Will it mean much? History says KT Rolster, they did take them down. An early game is where you want to attack Griffin. KT's on the red side. Story of this week, Atlas, I'm sure you've been following on.
Oh, yeah.
Is there's been a lot more bans that aren't just Aatrox and the standard 2 junglers that we often see. The Nocturne, of course, and the Talia. Swain bans have been coming up a bit more on the red side. And look at this. It's not a Swain
here
ban,
we go,
but it is
KT.
an S champion. They're going to ban away the Shen from Lehens, who has been a god on this pick.
And it was all about KT banning out Lehens in their last series as well. Yes, they tackled top lane when they were in the game, but the Champ Select was all about getting rid of those support picks that he has been so good at. 3 supports already banned, 2 of them by Griffin. And does KT get rid of the Talia? They do. Now, first pick Swain is available. First pick Zoe also there, but there's a lot of junglers that are still available as well. We're looking at the Trundle for Tarzan that's been so successful. You mentioned these 100% win rate picks, these very high win rate picks. It's not necessarily Swain, but they could still get a lot of them here.
You got to say, though, I feel like KT have pulled off a bit of a bonus in this draft because you're like, okay, Swain's pretty good champion. And of course, we agree. Chovy's played 1 game of Swain, and it was a loss in the 2v2 bot lane. He played the Swain against FLICKR and got slammed by Aiming's Varus
Yes,
in
I
the
remember
lane.
that.
More than a Flame Horizon, about 150 CS behind in what was a standard 2v2. So it's a pretty big cost to give up the Swain. They also lose Morgana and Trundle, and I think KT say, okay, Swain may be powerful, but we don't respect it as a true flex pick because Chovy has struggled on it. Tarzan takes the aggressive side of the Trundle versus Kindred matchup after shutting down Songwon's Kindred just a few days ago. Tarzan has been known. His reputation from solo queue is relentless aggression, but it's his control jungling we've seen in the LCK so far. So it's a different type of matchup for the Griffin jungler. First game on Kindred.
And also, damn, that takes a lot of stones to pick the Kindred into score as well. As Chovy, thinking about locking down the Lehens pick as Soraka on the bottom side of the map. Damn, KT better be banning that Vladimir, Papa Smithy.
What I think Griffin learned from the first time they played KT was don't allow KT to counterpick you bot side. They got the counterpick top side to Griffin, and it just got ganked by score and didn't matter. And the Mordekaiser rolled over Griffin's insistence on going into the Bruisers and the Mages 2 games in a row. KT, we might just see the bot lane matchup exposed here of Swain Soraka against Morgana and Varus. Not 100% guaranteed on the Griffin side. But so far in the first round, it might just be answering picks. We might not have had any solo laners taken in the first round of the picks and bans.
Yeah, we could actually just be looking at the bottom lane and jungle here for both of these teams, considering the Swain's flexibility. And solo laners still able to get those counter picks like we were talking about. So benefit over to KT as far as getting those counter picks in is concerned. And we'll see where they put their last pick as the GP gets banned away.
In case you guys are wondering, patch 8.13 with hot fixes enabled this week ever since we started the match week on Tuesday. Imagine we're going to be sticking with 8.13 with hot fixes next week. We don't have the full confirmation just yet.
I believe so, yeah.
Yasuo, Gangplank taken out. See what solo lane KT is comfortable to blind pick. Your first thought is Smeb, because of course Yukal want to get in there and get down and dirty with Chovy on a counter pick. But no guarantees, and it sometimes depends on what's left available. Mundo and Mundo's counters are available, and of course, the famous Kennen from Smeb is going to be the final ban here. Could have been considered as a blind pick. Seems like it will be banned by Griffin.
Well, Darius is still available, and do you just blind pick that one for the top side of the map?
Or do you pick a mid laner and just pick the Mundo if it's a safe moment?
Or pick a flex pick and then still leave it all wide open, give that to Yukal or Smeb or Deft, theoretically. Haven't really seen Smeb on the rise so far that much.
Nice thing about Rise here is it works against mid lane Swain very well. We see other people draft this into Swain. And it can be a powerful top laner, as Cuvée has shown us many times over the years. So I agree, KT have got a very nice draft going on. They'll feel good about giving over the Swain against Griffin compared to other power picks that Griffin have excelled on. Could still be used against them, but of course it's all about what you can get out of the 3 bans in the first round.
Well, we've got Grievous Wounds going up very, very highly in priority against Griffin right now. The Mundo being locked in, as well as the Swain, Kindred, and Soraka that all heal themselves.
And we got an Orianna.
My goodness.
Now,
if this is Ryze versus Orianna, it's probably one of the most historically played mid lane matchups that we've had throughout League of Legends.
take a deep breath, because if you look over to the LPL, there has been multiple games of Orianna bot lane.
That's true.
It is possible that we could have an Orianna bot lane from Viper. He is very, very inventive as a player.
Oh, wow.
So we got the Mundo counter coming in.
And the spring season special of the Gnar and Ryze that we saw so much.
Let's wait till 20 seconds to see if it will be the Swain or, in fact, the Orianna in the bot lane. Ori is a good matchup into the Ryze, so they might just stick with that. But I'm sure Griffin have been doing the same scouting that we have. Ball carriers here could be the Swain, could be the Mundo. Definitely some good ball carrier options. KT pulled off a lot of heists in the draft. Waiting until 20 seconds to understand the exact lanes, but will it just be the classic Orianna versus Ryze? The answer is yes.
Yep, and it's still going to be one of those matchups where the early game is going to mean so much. Tarzan versus Score is going to be huge in this one. If Griffin can get like a foothold in the early game, we could see them just rolling right over the top of KT, because KT are priced into buying so much of these Grievous Wounds items that might put them behind in their builds that want to be snowballed.
But KT do have some very strong lanes for the Trundle to path around. That was what they were able to claim in this draft. They denied away the Swain and Trundle synergy as well, did KT. Let's see how the bot lane Swain goes. It is a pick that we have seen from Viper from this season, but of course they struggled with Chovy on the pick last time out. That was during the funnel. But you're going to feel good about Gnar into Mundo. You're going to feel good about Varus Morgana against a Swain lane because of Varus' powerful laning phase hotfix buff on this patch as well. The Orianna also needs a bit of time to take over the Ryze matchup. And the big kind of wondering here, the big question is, what about this Kindred coming through from Tarzan?
Yep, it's all going to be about that jungle. We mentioned it before. We'll mention it again many times during this game. Let's do it. Game number 1, Griffin versus KT.
소환사의 협곡에 오신 것을 환영합니다.
Well, I mean, if the fan vote said anything, it said that most of them stayed home. They're not here in the Soli Stadium because KT fans are plenty in the audience based on that one. Tarzan, that is incredible. Oh, some of these Griffin fans, just such good artists. Is that the same one again, Papa, do you think?
It could be, but could they please channel it into some sort of synergy on the fan call for Griffin is what I'm asking for. Because they're really good at drawing, but sadly, chanting is something they still need to develop.
Speaking of drawing, if Griffin could win the 2-0, then it will draw things up here against KT Rolster. We'll see whether the early game from KT is still going to be enough. As level 1, certainly nothing to be doing just yet. But man, Smeb is going to have a great time. You remember last time Smeb played this particular matchup? It was disgusting.
You're right. I mean, his Smeb on this Gnar is very, very well known to be strong.
Yeah.
And
Tal did not have a good time in Game 3.
The matchup is one-sided as can be. You have a lot of different options for how you want to punish the Mundo. The Rage Bait is a possibility, obviously, as the game goes on. And I'm really thinking about, again, the texture of the matchup when these two teams played last time was about Deft and Marta being able to just solo smash in the 2v2. Viper's second game on the Swain. Did play it against Hanwha Live a few days ago. Varus should have a lot of good options in this lane, but at level 1 at least, that Q from the Soraka, super annoying to deal with.
Yeah, the classic Morgana level 1, not exactly something that you win with all the time, as that's another never move landing. Deft taking way too much damage here in this lane.
And he hasn't got any sustain, as we well know. Neither
he does
does
have
Lehens at level 1.
corrupting potion, though, so he's done it yet again, like he did on his Xayah.
Loving it for this active trading, and definitely going to be necessary. Tarzan gets hustled away from the mark, so doesn't pick up that topside scuttle. It was a red side start for both junglers, but you could tell the score very much about denying the marks. And he's had a game on Trundle where he denied every mark and picked up every single scuttle in the past. So let's see how he does in this game, because both these junglers have been praised for their jungle path.
Exactly. It's intelligent jungling from both of these guys. It's what they're known for. So far, you've got Score staying well away from the Kindred. Up on the top side of the map, taking the Krugs pretty early on. We'll see what this changes as far as his jungle pathing.
Very interesting to see what the build comes through for the Varus. When we saw the Corrupting Potion last time, Atlas, it was, of course, the Xayah. We mentioned it was because Xayah could not build into Blade the Ruin King as easily, or Sheen, to try to trade against a Vladimir. This time, he can go Blade the Ruin King, so we'll see if that is the choice. As Tarzan, not a man to take the aggression from Score lying down, will steal away the blue buff as Score made a very defensive clear of his Krugs on the top side.
And now Tarzan's going to be able to grab his first mark there as well. So they go even in Rift Scuttlers, but that's going to be a 3 buff for the Kindred. It's great news, and KT getting well and truly shoved here on the bottom side. Some well-earned revenge here from the Griffin bottom lane.
Def going to take a shop, it looks like, or at least threaten one. He needs his Corrupting Potion stacks back, you would imagine.
Yeah.
See what the item choice is, a Sapphire Crystal. So he went Comet. This looks like it's going to be the Manamune once again coming through from Def.
We'll see whether it's going to be the Prey special as well, because remember, his build was quite interesting. Still going for a lot of that attack speed, the Rage Blade coming in, but just wanting to have that extra mana in there to go along with all of the attack speed. On hit for the Manamune, certainly very strong.
Looking at this history, this is what we call a counter pick. And even though not every team that has picked the Gnar has been one of the top teams, you can see the matchup has been very kind to the Gnar. It feels like a lot of next levels going on in the bot lane, even though we're showing the top lane right now. Because Deft has gone Comet, so could just be Q-Max Lethality, like you mentioned, could be the Prey build, which was about multiple stacking the Manamune. So basically when you go Muramana Rage Blade, which was the build we saw there, after those 6 autos come in and you get the Rage Blade passive, you're able to use that Ginsu's Fury to double proc Muramana and do a lot of burst damage and front-ended damage on the Varus. Can just go standard lethality also, that we saw that out of Pilot earlier in the season for MVP. I imagine the choice here is because Varus heavily outranges Soraka and Swain. Won't take as many auto attack trades with Rage Blade. As mid lane.
Gonna have to hold that thought as Chovy, the red buff is ticking down. Cleanse immediately used, does still have the flash as Yukal, doesn't find the last Q, and Chovy even able to hold on to the flash.
Knows that if he flashes against a Trundle, a pillar appears behind him and he is certainly dead. That is certainly a lot of confidence shown by the young 17-year-old mid laner. He gets away, realizes he doesn't have to flash from the last overload. KT have a lot of jungle control now. As the mid lane, they can push up wards very easily.
Well, Tarzan priced into protecting Sword here just a little bit, but the briefcase is going to land, and the flash in from Sword teleport to come down, but I don't know whether it's going to be enough, and first blood going over to Tarzan.
Very nicely done by Griffin. This is a great matchup for Smeb, but Smeb is caught just like Kingen was in that first game, overextending on a lane-dominant champion. That was the Cho'Gath for Kingen. We see it here for Smeb. Bit of Marin syndrome there. We see it on the Rumble, the Cho'Gath, even the Gnar. If the matchup looks really good, you're going to get to push, and we know what push can provide. Well, you're reminded of the solo queue experience when you push. You get ganked easier. Nice little pathing decision there by Tarzan.
Yeah, very nice. The Mundo's going to get a free back as well. Doesn't have to use the teleport as Tarzan will get himself another mark as well. So 2 Rift Scuttlers being taken down here by the Kindred. Both of them netting him these marks, the score. Some vision being gained by Griffin on the top side of the map. They know that he's taking down his Krugs. Doesn't quite have the items that Tarzan's managed to pick up as well. Being able to grab that first blood. Still hasn't been back to shop, I don't think. Is now once again back on the top side of the map. We have to note, Smeb has his flash and the Mundo doesn't.
It's fun how we have a top lane going better than expected for Griffin as a counterpoint to a bot lane going better than expected for Griffin as well. So that means that some of these lanes that were picked for power, there's been a gank top side, and Defton might have had a bit of an awkward back. But this lane will continue to go Deft's way. I'm actually interested to see if he goes Q or Emax. We've seen a lot of Q-Max versus Morgana, but not everyone subscribes to that.
It's mostly Q-Max on these builds as well. I mean, I know we've really only seen Prey utilize it, but wanting to get that extra poke in there with the Manamune, given the fact that you can just spam out your spells so much. It's missing some farm, which is a little bit unfortunate.
And it is a Q-Max from Deft, so it might just be the full-on lethality. We'll wait and see.
Hope so. It's definitely very exciting.
The trade patterns here are pretty clear. Mata walks up, puts down a puddle onto one or both of Viper and Lehens, and then Deft just takes Q trades, which were buffed on this patch. So pretty straightforward here. It was a total AD buff, so it doesn't even matter that he doesn't have any AD purchases.
Yep.
It is based on your base AD as well. Trying to outrange and control the lane. This was the lane they got the counter picks in. So they definitely want to have as much presence as possible. Speaking of presence, Remember that Chovy's cleanse is down, but the flash is still up.
Yeah, and he's playing relatively defensively in this lane as well. That will push forward for Griffin, but score maybe a little bit early to this party as Smeb is going to be taking a Rift Scuttle, I believe, in the river. Or at least getting some vision down. Hadn't quite respawned just yet. Tarzan, position given away here by Score, but we do know exactly where Score is as well as a result.
Clear away the ward and once again ramp up the pressure on Chovy. 17-year-old mid laner versus 17-year-old mid laner. It does feel like we kind of have the best of the next generation here. BDD kind of in that half step, and these two are the newest generation as bot lane.
Yeah, Yukal's going to get spotted out. Stopwatch going to be used by Viper. There's a lot of damage going down onto the KT bottom lane, but they'll be happy to get that golden stasis out of the Swain. Griffin now just going to clear out some wards, as Tarzan was down here to try and protect. Good roam timing as well as Chovy moves his way in, so KT understandably going to move away and grab their first blue buff of the game.
Good sign that the matchup is tipping the way we expected to in pick ban. That awkwardly Viper has to use his stasis, not even in a true skirmish, just for his own life under a turret. So defensive use of that stasis effect is good news for Deft and Marta and for KT in general. Tarzan is topside now, looking for a mark, but Score, as we can see, definitely on top of defending where possible.
Yeah, the good thing for KT Rolster is the fact that they don't have to deal with a Swain with 5 seconds of invulnerability that we saw just the other day, being so disgusting. So thankfully that perfect timing stopwatch not going to be able to be utilized by the Swain. Smeb continuing to push things forward. He does have that CS lead, which is what we expect, but still pushing in an overextended fashion. Tarzan, we'll see whether he heads back up towards the top side. We saw him put his mark for Lamb on the Gnar.
And let's kind of take a step back, as we can just see a lot of pushing happening in top and bot. Finally, the game does represent the draft that we saw. Let's talk about that draft going forward, because consider that Griffin did go for this Orianna that we've seen twice now, I believe, in the LCK after the last buff. In the late game, Orianna has good ball carriers. The Mundo will be able to anti-carry the Varus, has a very clear identity in fights. Griffin definitely do have a point where 5v5 seems pretty overwhelming. It's not just a free win. I think that Casey can do a lot of creative things, as
that's a serrated Dirk coming in for Deft. So it looks like it's going to be Lethality Varus actually committed to by the 80 carry of KT.
And lethality does snowball really hard, and I think that's what KT need to do as a response to how damn overwhelming Griffin's 5v5 will be. They need to be in a gold lead. They need to be taking objectives. They want to unleash Deft and Marta to the mid lane and start sieging with that Q-Max Varus. You remember those DPM numbers we used to get with Lethality Varus?
We might even see them. Chains of Corruption are going to go down. Viper is up in the ultimate, but the wish comes in and it's not enough! That's the lethality that we were talking about, as Deft looks as nonchalant as you like as he picks up the first kill for KT.
Q-Max Varus does big damage. You have the W steroid now as well to make it even bigger. Big moment for the side of KT. This pays off their draft. They've got the top, they've got the bot. Now they actually have the kill on the bot lane. Can they turn it into a Mountain Drake? Any Drake will be helpful to force the enemy to fight in the late game.
Well, let's have a look at what happened here. It was just an ultimate to come out from Deft. It looked all too easy. Lehens could not do enough to save him.
But it was 400 damage coming through from the Varus Q. That was with only a serrated Dirk at the time, and Deft says, I picked this for lane, damn it, and buys an Executioner's Calling. He already had Grievous Wounds. Now he's got double.
Yeah, that's a hell of a lot of Grievous Wounds, but when you're playing this Lethality Varus, you want a Mortal Reminder, you want a Lord Dominic's Regard. It's going to work so well as he moves into the later stage of the game, so he may as well pick it up because it does fit into the build, even if he's going to finish it a little bit later.
Is that the Rage Blade going to be a ban? It could just be considered later, just as a strong item on Varus, like it is on Kai'Sa at some point in the build.
The thing about Lethality Varus is there's so many items that feel really good, and you need to get yourself to as much cooldown reduction as you can, and because you can't build Black Cleaver, it means 4 items have to have that cooldown reduction on them to get the most effectiveness.
Seeing Tarzan back up top side, Smeb's flash up.
Yep, Crush is going to be used for Smeb to get himself out. Another teleport. This one much earlier, and it is going to mean that Yukal saves the life of his top laner. Chovy was making his way in as well. So, successfully diffused by KT, and they'll have to come back to these lanes, Will Griffin, to sort out all of these minions.
Imagine it was the roam timing that was what prompted the teleport from Yukal, as Smeb has kept his flash this entire game, actually.
Yeah.
Hasn't found a spot to use it. Flash being up allows him to overextend a lot cleaner because Flash into bouncing on a minion is basically a whole screen of disengage in most scenarios.
Yeah,
Still, Griffin are still going for the slow and steady. We know that's what they've drafted for here. It's all about losing the minimum before 30 minutes here for Griffin, as Chovy still working on that first item. Wait and see what it is. At this point, with no tier, probably going to be the leads.
Mata is just clearing out vision over and over again. Black Shield going to help him stay healthy here as well, as Deft has about as much push as you'd like. All of the buttons being used here, Lehens with the Emax, just to give him as much of that poke damage as possible, but Deft able to sidestep it now pretty cleanly. Doesn't have boots yet. Still hasn't been hit by very much on the bottom side of the map. Score taking some damage here against Tarzan, as there's the teleports coming in from KT. Smeb's going to turn up. Deft is here as well, as they really want Shelly. Sword and Tarzan are going to back away, and I believe Score will get an easy smite onto this one. Comes down. Look at that King's Tribute, giving him so much health back as well. Now Speb chasing after Sword. The Blade of the Ruined King is done now, and the Hyper Proc's hurting a lot as well. This is where life gets real hard for the Mundo.
Big investment from KT, but going on with their win condition of taking this early, the Rift Herald is so important for them to keep up the pace of the game. So they invest a lot. Sack bot lane for a little while, probably at the cost of a rod of Aegis top side.
Yep, another crush going to be used. Remember, Smeb holding on to that flash for a very long time. Not into the wall. Minion's going to help him out there as well. No need for the flash yet again, unless they go for the dive. He does have the flash, turns it around even through the wish, and goes 1-for-1 top side.
He'll never use his flash, but he will get a 1-for-1 Will Smeb. Nicely played by him there. Did not want to fully disengage. Surprise Tarzan, who dies with his ultimate available. That would have been some shenanigans if he used it. Neither of them would have died at the same moment. Gonna get the replay here. Really nice ultimate as Smeb says, haha, I'm gonna keep my flash once more.
Yeah, and actually just on the edge there of the Gnar as well.
But the sword has been very accurate on the Qs. The crunch hits him there, takes him down. The wish a little bit too late to keep him up. In the bot side, they punish in another way. They walk bot side, they put down the Rift Herald, and now Q Max Varus with lethality will be unleashed on the map. This is the tipping point of the game. It isn't going to be a team fight in 20 minutes, because if we get there, Griffin will probably win, and KT hasn't closed the game early enough. Now, with the Varus on one item, rotating through with the Yomus, whether Griffin can slow down KT is the big question to decide who wins this game.
And also now KT can set themselves up for a siege. You look at the top side of the map, not necessarily your siege scenario, but if you pair Trundle with Morgana, that's super non-committal CC, that Deft can just rain down havoc on top of. This composition will work really nicely. It's one of those comps that we used to see so long ago when it was Varus mid.
I love it. You talk about that. You put down any sort of temporary terrain like the Trundle pillar next to a turret. Lethality Varus is going to hit his Q more reliably.
Oh yeah.
We talk about those sort of comps in regards, say, a Blitzcrank or a Thresh being able to hit the hook more. The numbers are going to start jumping up from the Varus. Just trust me on that one, as he's now going to find tanks that he can poke down with his Q. Another cute combo that we might see situationally show up is the Trundle Pillar into the Gnar ultimate being hitting onto that wall. It does qualify as temporary terrain, just like the Gnar Anivia have a bit of synergy there. So
not to mention, man, if Deft's positioning is good in these fights, Smeb can just line up 5 members with an ultimate as well, and getting these piercing arrows that we're not used to talking about being the main damage source. It's really, really frightening.
This is a really exciting game because we're seeing the best of KT, where they've drafted, they've left open the Swain with a plan. They didn't just leave open Swain by accident. They had this outrange the Swain plan. Also, we said, well, Griffin's one weakness was the early game, as OGN showed in terms of stats. KT are the early game team. Griffin have gone scaling, KT have gone early game. We get an answer to a lot of different questions on whether Griffin can weather the storm against one of the best, who also have the very clear mid-game advantage.
Yeah, and this also is Griffin playing to what Griffin was known for mostly in the Challenger League as well, is just winning games late, not caring about the early game, and like you say, weathering the storm. KT are not that team, and they're not a Challenger team as well. So we'll see whether Griffin's plan is going to work. It didn't in the first meeting of these two teams, certainly not in game number 1. However, this game has almost got to the point where KT had won game 1 in the last time these two teams faced off. So Griffin already with a successful game 1 if you're going to compare. As Smeb, man, he's got a lot of attention today as Tarzan turns up yet again. Some very fast teleports as finally Smeb uses a flash. The cancels come in. Mata was almost there. Turret had been taken topside, remember, guys, but first turret did go over to KT. Means that 1,000 gold is going to be that gold lead, as Def demonstrating why Lethality Varus was so damn frustrating. He was off the damn screen, and then they take a whole bunch of the health buff.
And I'm sure Smeb is frustrating Griffin because he's repelling these ganks about as good as can be expected with the level of camp that has been set up topside. Tarzan has only visited topside when it comes to these plays.
And it's not one of these matchups like the Kennen, for example, where it just gets better for the Mundo as he reaches that late game unkillableness. You know that Smeb will be able to kill Sword at basically every point of this game if they're left alone 1v1.
And Sword, of course, is the one that brought back Gnar this season as a Mundo counter, so he knows only too well. Has played both sides of the matchup. Problem for the Mundo is you can never answer the itemization if the Gnar doubles down on lane. Hyper does the burst magic damage based on maximum HP. Blade the Ruin King about current health, physical damage. You go Rage Blade, and that's every 2 autos. The Hyper is going to be proccing, and you know, you feel naked. There's nothing you can build. There's nothing you can do to answer it. You can only just paper over the symptoms with a Warden's Mail and a Bramble Vest and hope for the best. So unfortunately for Sword, it's kind of at the whim of Smeb this game, and that's why there's been so much attention to the top side to try to delay the itemization from the Gnar.
Well, he is almost up to his Black Cleaver, Smeb, the 2 items that are able to deal with both health and with the armor. So certainly building for lane at the moment. I would have liked to see a Rage Blade a little bit sooner, but didn't quite have enough money to build 3 items just yet. We'll probably see it coming in third, though.
The problem with the Rage Blade is that it does nothing in a team fight. At least Armor Shred and Phage does something. If you lose turrets and build a Rage Blade slowly, you just kind of lose the game because you have no backup options. So I don't mind it being a little bit more situational.
Well, he's going to be playing defensively here on the bottom side of the map as KT looking to trade some turrets. Outer on the bottom side, traded for the outer on the top side. See whether Griffin continue pushing, whether KT do the same thing on the top side of the map. Griffin with a bigger minion wave, but only by a few creeps as Smeb once again going to start smacking on Sword. Kindred will need to come back if he does want to get anything done. Not spotted by the Rift Scuttle just yet, and is going to be spotted by the Control Ward if he comes in for the gank.
Makes me smile that this game is also, feels like a 3rd episode of the season, so I'll hold the point.
Yep, Smeb does have that Mega Gnar. That's the bounce you were looking for. Doesn't have the flash, has the ult, but it's not enough. And Tarzan grabs the kill despite the very cute bounce from Smeb.
Smeb's doing everything he can. He doesn't look annoyed, though, because he knows exactly what the game plan is here from the side of Griffin, and everything else is going to plan from the side of KT. This game really does feel like the 3rd episode of a 4 or 5 part epic between Griffin and KT, because in those first 2 episodes, it was Smeb that got the jungle camp, and it was Sword that had to deal with Smeb in so many different scenarios where Score was going to be there and his jungler was not. So this is a reaction to that. As gold goes down, right now, the gold for Griffin gets them closer to the late game that they know is the light at the end of the tunnel. But the gold right now for KT gets into their mid-game core, and the mid-game is knocking us in the face very soon.
Very, very soon. You've got 20% CDR on Deft as well, depending on whether he took Transcendence or not. I think it might be up to 30% as we were having a bit of a glimpse down there.
It's pretty common to take Transcendence in these lethality builds, but we'll wait and see on that one for Deft.
See what the Serrated Dirk turns into as well. There's a few options here. Could be the Duskblade of Drakthar, which I certainly like, but Edge of Night is a, you know, cusp choice.
I think Duskblade is where you go. Remember Duskblade, since the last time lethality 80 carry was a thing, was buffed for 80 carries because the range penalty is not there anymore. It's the same damage for melee and range champions.
But he does have the Mana Mune now, so Muramana will be coming in very soon. Remember, if you think back to when the Mana Mune was picked up on Varus almost every time, takes a little while longer to stack given the cooldowns. Deft will be getting there pretty soon though. Looking at timings, you expect about 19 to 20 minutes for an Ezreal, but it's certainly not those numbers for a Varus.
I'm just so close to the monitor right now, Atlas, because I need to know where the game goes in the next 5 minutes. This is the tipping point, as we alluded to. And one foul decision from KT, 3-item Orianna shows up, Mundo runs at Varus. This game's over, Griffin wins. But KT also have the items they need to blow open the game. There's only one frontliner and a Trundle ultimate later. He is not going to be very tanky for the side of Griffin. We're just waiting to see if KT can take the next big game-breaking objective. A second Mountain Drake does make their Baron a pretty fearsome thing to contend with.
Well, you can see Griffin, 4 men strong, are in the mid lane here, trying to get the siege out, but good God, Tarzan taking a lot of damage. Lahen's going to be the one suffering for it, though, as Sword standing with all of these minions, and for the first time, Score is down here to get the gank on. Blade of the Ruined King's going to be there. He uses it as the Grievous Wounds. Will it be enough? Smep keeping distance, has the stopwatch. Redemption down as well, but KT, they're doubling in on this one. Rune Prison for the Mundo, and you are going to the Death Chamber no matter how hard you try. Marta turns up, and Lahen's just gets soloed by the damn Morgana. KT, this is what they needed in the mid game.
And Griffin don't actually make a Baron play. They could have considered one. They have a Kindred, remember, not a true marksman, but something to cause Baron threat. KT make the measured choice of it's 23 minutes. We can send our Smite bot lane, get a kill, and not be punished. And they actually punish Griffin as you say, Morgana solo kills the Soraka.
Yeah, of course the Soraka was very low on health. Had to keep everyone topped up when Deft was shooting them in the face with his arrows. But damn, wasn't expecting to find Marta there with an Ignite in hand to take him down.
But the aggressive decision-making from KT outwits the defensive decision-making from Griffin. They took a very decisive path through the enemy jungle to the Soraka that they didn't control. They didn't have vision there and thus caught out. We'll focus on the action here, but the mini-map will be very interesting as it goes on. Consider when this play starts, you're Griffin. If you pause it here and consider their options, they've got control wards. They can definitely try to make a Baron play, because it's going to take a long time. Sword's going to die slowly. He still has everything up. Lahen's walks down, low health. He could have gone around. You noticed Viper went around the safe way. Lahen's tries to run straight through, a straight line translation, and gets picked off. So Griffin's first choice is defensive. Kind of understand it, can kind of criticize it depending on which side you want to be on, but then Lahen's too aggressive in how he rotates to bot and gets punished by Marta.
Yeah, not to mention Sword does end up going down to the 3-man gank after the Rise teleport. I did like the timing from KT because it would have been a whole minion wave lost on the top side of the map had Chovy not rotated over there. So it was a free teleport transition, assuming Griffin wasn't going to be able to do the Baron. So timing-wise from KT was also beautiful.
But still, we ask the question, what does it mean now that we're at 25 minutes and they don't get an objective from it? They kill off that damn annoying Mundo, but his flash will be up very soon. The map control Griffin had around Baron is still there. The item purchase is there, and that means Smeb is better at this, which is just making Mundo's life terrible. I think he's not on the business deals anymore. He's calling his wife and complaining about the
it's either calling his wife or, if things get really bad, calling his mom, just asking whether he can come home for the summer. But yeah, no longer is he just doing those stock options, working out what's going on elsewhere.
I mean, he can't call his doctor. He is his own doctor.
Yeah, that's the problem. He can get a second opinion, though.
It's true.
All the time.
That's true.
And I think he might need one because things have certainly gone wrong, and his particular prescription ain't working against this Gnar.
He's had this ailment against Gnar for like 4 years, Atlas.
I know, and he hasn't fixed it. He needs a second opinion. Get on that phone, man. Maybe he needs to talk to Singed. Maybe he's got a bit of an idea. However, Singed doesn't exactly have the best time.
I mean, I consult Singed when I'm not feeling good. He just tells me to have a drink.
Yeah. And you can ask for his drink as well because it's pretty good. Did get nerfed recently, though. Changed the recipe.
I mean, a lot of people have been sipping the drink of these two teams. Griffin and KT, both intoxicating in their own ways.
Yeah.
The Griffin hype story, the anime they've been running here, going 8-1 in the first round robin and beating Hanwha Life to show they're still a top team. But the KT excitement, the KT hype train that so often gets derailed before the final destination.
Oh, good use of final destination there, Papa.
I think it's very unlikely both these teams get to Worlds. I think one of them is very likely. I think both of them is very unlikely, but of course still possible. We're still with no teams locked in. And that's why the obvious clash of styles being opted into in the draft as well makes this one so fascinating because I just want to know who's going to win.
Exactly. We could actually be seeing a preview of the LCK final, Papa. There's a chance that KT can make it up there. Score. He's going to throw down the pillar. Lahen's taking some damage here. Deft waiting for the ultimate. Does get it. Oh, God. The 1-2 punch almost enough to get rid of the Soraka, but she's not going to be able to do any healing unless she wants to kill herself. And KT get a free tower here in the mid lane. A lot of pressure. It's all over the map, and a lot of it stems from Smeb, who's now got free time on the bottom side as well.
And Deft, of course, follows ARAM rules. If he can control the mid lane and force everyone to react, he's going to be able to rain down and take turrets, but also poke you away. So the moment they were forced to cut upwards, the Varus takes the mid lane turret, and this map's getting very long when it comes to Baron defenses for Griffin.
Yep, and Mortal Reminder now completed as well for Deft. So went home, decided to forego getting that Dustblade of Drakthar, but still a lot of lethality. Now, massive amounts of armor penetration on top of that Manamune that's about to transform. It is on the cusp. Oh man, KT's composition is getting very scary for this point in the game. 5,000 gold ahead.
4,000, 5,000 gold ahead. Decent. The double mountain means their Baron take is much more empowered, but 3 items are now on Mundo. But the Void Staff and the Needless Large Rod is there for the Orianna. There is definitely a fight that KT lose. So actually problem solving how to get this Baron, to me it needs to be a pick, and Lehens is definitely looking like the tastiest target with no flash and cleanse for quite a while.
Yeah, and also the tastiest target just in general because it's a damn Soraka that can really cause a lot of headaches in these fights despite how much grievous wounds KT have. Speaking of which, Smeb going to take down this Rift Scuttler very easily with his new and improved Mortal Reminder. Viper catching minion waves, and as the map gets shorter and shorter for Griffin, dealing with these minion waves will be easy with Swain and Orianna there. Orianna, of course, fantastic at clearing these waves.
Tarzan shows. Remember, they don't have Baron control right now. Okay, sword runs at Smeb. Look at what KT do. They're straight on Baron.
Yep, they're straight on there, and the flash going to be used very quickly here from Smeb. He actually wants to keep this fight going. Has himself the stopwatch, buying as much time as he can. Has it been enough, though, is the question. Deft moves over. They're looking to try and take down the Baron before anything can happen. Baron! Oh, it's going to be stolen by Viper! It could be all over from this point as we see our first shockwave onto Score by himself, and Griffin lose no one and steal a Baron with a Swain?
It's a disaster for KT. Score's smite was used ages ago. We're going to have to watch the replay, but how did this happen?
I don't know, man. Maybe he needed some extra health from the smite. Griffin, they are going to be able to take down this outer turret with this free Baron buff that is swirling around them. Oh man, speaking of swirling, KT's heads certainly are now trying to work out what the heck to do and what the hell went wrong.
We saw KT make a play like this. We said the enemy team doesn't have Baron threat. It's the right time. It was so obvious that KT were going to turn onto the Baron, but it was obvious to Griffin as well. Otherwise, Tarzan wouldn't have been bot lane. Let's watch what's actually happened here. Smite available for Score. Let's see if he gets DPS down and forced to smite early. The redemption comes in. He smites at over 1,000. What is he doing? That seems like just a mistake, honestly.
Unless they were trying to time it with other spells. You know, Deft's Piercing Arrow does do a lot of damage,
Yeah,
but could have helped if they were doing it at the same time.
The only reason to do that is if you're really sure on the call, and it seems like the call was rushed, and it just ends up getting picked up by, of all people, the Swain.
Well, maybe if it was rushed, he would have landed the smite. See whether that changes what's going to happen for the next game. However, you can't really call out Score too much after saving the telecom war with his smite against Blank a couple of days ago.
Excuse me, if I know anything about solo queue or competitive play, you're only as good as your last smite. His last smite, whatever the argument there, was pretty damn bad.
All right, yep, Papa Smithy has spoken. It's not enough. Score. See whether the next Baron is going to actually work out here for KT, because so far Griffin haven't really been able to shove any of these lanes forward.
But Atlas, this might just be the game decided.
Yeah,
seems
this
like
is
a crazy
the
thing
delay,
to say.
right? Yeah.
It's 4-4. KT's in a gold lead, but Griffin has such a powerful scaling comp. It's a very reliable ball carrier in the Mundo, who now gets to run at Lethality Varus, and you know what Lethality Varus is bad at? It's killing a damn Mundo. Holy balls, that's really hard to do.
Yeah, that is real hard.
He doesn't have Play the Rune King. He only has a bit of armor penetration, so regen, unless he gets a lot of help, is going to be enough to shrug off the burst in inverted commas. And now Griffin, with the Baron they shouldn't have, is rolling straight through mid.
They are. And Sword has got to the point where he can be very, very tanky. Nah, split pushing on the bottom side because he just can't help in this counter siege. And they will brute force this mid lane inhibitor turret. Can Smeb get enough done in the meantime, as this inhibitor is certainly going down? Score also taking a lot of damage as he moves towards his bottom lane inhibitor turret.
Okay.
Flash forward as they pull back the Trundle. Does have the stopwatch. A lot of damage coming in here as Chovy thinking about just winning the game. Ball flies forward as now Smeb, he has made his way back, but it means they're not winning anything elsewhere on the map, and they're just trying to defend. KT may have lost it all just right here.
It seems so likely, and unless we see a big play from Smeb, I think they're done.
Yep, he does have that Meganar available. It was a big rock to be thrown on top of Griffin, and they decide they don't want to deal with the poke to follow up after the disengage.
Take a deep breath. While Smeb doesn't make a big engage, they can kill the minion wave as he draws aggro. The game will extend, but just like you allude to, Atlas, that was the turning point of the game. That is what happens when you pick the early game comp. You can't make mistakes against this level of late game. There's late game comps, and there's Orianna Mundo against Lethality Varus. That's literally auto win, unless there's some sort of disaster happening. But the disaster was on the side of KT. As this comp, you need to always execute. The one time they mis-execute, it's in the biggest way. The comp that should never get the Baron gets the Baron, and that's why the game is all but done.
And Tarzan, he's got that 750 range. He's hit the dream on the Kindred, and he's basically the AD carry that they didn't think they were going to have, given the fact that Viper is on the Swain, hops over the wall here. Smeb trying to defend the inner turret. Could be a difficult ask. The score is going to turn up as well. Thankfully, Marta alongside.
Decent Baron buff power play, but not completely out of order. However, if Ryze is split pushing, the Mundo is basically gone.
Yeah, and there is absolutely nothing they can do here. They trade inner turret for inner turret. Teleport going to come in just to make sure that Yukao gets here as quickly as possible, but probably unnecessary, as he most likely would have got out with just a recall. KT hold on here at the inner turret, inhibitor turret, as Sword was moving on over. Mundo getting to go where he pleases stages right now. Smeb desperate for that 1v1 in a side lane, but it's just not feeling like it's going to happen, as this Mundo is in teamfight duty at the moment, which is not what KT want.
It's Orianna, Swain, and Mundo. Put the ball on the Swain or the Mundo and roll through a 5v5 because you don't respect the enemy AD carry to do damage to you. There's no reason to split push. Now for Griffin, they need to, of course, put their lanes in a decent spot. They don't want to deal with minion pressure, but they know they're one teamfight away from closing the game here, Griffin. And now for KT, all those plans, all those best laid plans. They made the holiday plans, they got all the special deals, but workers are calling and saying, you got to show up, you are accountable, you don't have those days off anymore. And that means that KT needs something very inspired. I don't know what it looks like, because I just can't see the Mundo ever not just being a monster in a team fight. But KT need to pull off the Dream Realm Warp into a 5-man Gnar ultimate in the backline. Otherwise, Griffin are winning game number 1.
Yeah, or they could possibly steal away the next Baron as well. It's going to be up in a minute's time. Speaking of that Realm Warp, it was how SKT were able to win a game against KT earlier on in the Telecom War. But could be too little too late this stage in the game. KT at least are able to deal with the minion waves very, very quickly, despite the fact that they are super minions heading forward. And Deft has all the CDR that he wants, as well as a whole bunch of lethality and power in those queues.
Tarzan has a frontline build. When you have an Orianna, you might as well just be someone who can skip around, and maybe even you will be the ball carrier in the next fight. The ball now needs to be respected. The sweet hat is there for the Orianna. And Marta
possibly just caught out here. Black Shield is going to come down as Tarzan wants it. Oh god, the red buff is going to be enough to grab the kill in the fight, and teleport from Sword gets him in there. Vision of Empire is giving vision to the potentially dead KT members, because this is 5v4 and the team fight comp has 5.
Only frustration here for Griffin. Both the neutrals are up, so do you just push and ignore them, or do you try to go to one? Sword is trying to buy time in the mid lane while they take the Elder.
Well, Elder Drake is going to be started here as Sword taking a fair bit of damage, but
trying
does
to
have
zone
the
them away
ultimate.
from Baron.
Certainly is going to be able to do that for now, as they do have the information. There's the Realm Warp as 4 members of KT just want to take down the big purple worm. Remember, Tarzan is down there, but the smite was not on point for score, as he's going to have to hit it this time. He does so, and now they're looking for more. Yukao comes down, they trade the buffs, but now Smeb hopping over the wall. They've got themselves a wish, and now Score, can he just buy space to give KT the Baron buff that they wanted? It's a good trade for KT if they can get out.
Good decision on the Realm Warp. FLICKR-esque there. Yukao obviously faced him in the last series, and they understood that Sword only uses his ultimate in a scenario like that if he's trying to buy time. They know they're on the Elder. They're able to problem solve their way to a Baron. This is what I was mentioning. Remember, Griffin could have just tried to disregard buffs and play through one lane. They think they can trade and just pick up a free Elder for Sword's ultimate. KT, with the Realm Warp, proved that that is not possible. And that means the game gets another layer of spice as we move on to 38 minutes into game 1.
And now if KT can run Griffin around the map as well, the Elder Drake is going to feel like a silly choice out of the 2 big buffs. So KT going to be moving forward. Remember, a bit of extra time when you lock down the Baron buff. Griffin will only have this Elder for another minute and a half. Can they make use of it is the question, as I think mid lane inhibitor is going to be the first port of call for Griffin.
Again, still super easy to execute for Griffin in the 5v5s. That's why it's important, Atlas, to talk about what you were saying. The fact that they've got super minions now, the fact that Ryze needs to be respected at least a little bit, but because of the lethality Varus, he doesn't have the long leash because they just have no threat onto the Mundo. So there's so many seesaws, twists and turns here when it comes to the equations. Sword walks up, they want this mid lane inhibitor.
Yep, well, Sword is going to see whether he can get it. As the piercing arrows are flying in, Tarzan has to be respected. He does so much damage in Smeb. There's no GA on this Gnar at all. Ucal coming down trying to get damage onto Sword. He does have Morella Nomicom at least, but it's not doing enough. As KT, they lose the inhib, but they knew that that was probably going to go down. This Elder Drake is powerful. One Nexus turret. Is it actually going to be enough here against Griffin?
Smeb close to Mega Gnar, so he's still zoning. They're respecting Smeb.
Will they have enough, though? Even if Smeb gets that Mega Gnar, does it need to be respected here from Griffin, given the teamfight prowess that they will have with this composition? Mega Gnar does come in here as Tarzan trying to get these autos down. Third proc of that E is really dangerous. We saw how much it did to Marta earlier on. It's now Sword having to run away here momentarily. KT have staved them off and they've kept that Nexus turret very healthy.
We're seeing that Griffin can't play one lane unless they just fully turret dive, and they're not feeling ready to do that. They're out of vision here, but they're both threatening. If Def walks up and gets popped, maybe the game just ends.
Yeah, well, he's right in the back line here as Sword has a good position. Realm Warp comes down. They're just trying to lock down Viper. We'll see whether it's going to be enough now as Tarzan going 1v1 versus Marta. I think I know where my money's at. As the Wish comes in, they do get the stopwatch. Has to flash out of the way, but Sword in great position. Lamb's Respite is something that Def could potentially use right here as Tarzan taken down to the Guardian Angel. Great positioning here as well from Deft as he's firing shots into the back line. The Gnar only onto a single target, but is it the right one as Tarzan gets taken down? Single man Shockwave as well, only onto scoring. KT, they've done the miraculous team fight yet again.
They've done it. They outplayed them by just splitting up the fight. Griffin couldn't fight call. The quarterback in the Orianna could never set up for a massive Shockwave, so it ends up being used suboptimally. KT pushed through mid. How much can they get against 4 members of Griffin?
Well, it's the double teleport to the bottom side. It's the 3-2 split coming in from KT as they're trying to take down everything that they can. They understand with a man advantage like this, it's huge. And they do so much damage to these structures. Ucal is tearing them apart. They take 2 inhibitors, and now Griffin, it's all turned around in their face.
Can this actually end the game? Your first thought is no. KT do agree. That was so difficult to pull off. The Realm Warp looks like madness because you're fully committing against this Griffin lineup, who have a very strong team fight, but their team fight is a little bit different. They need to be in position to get value out of the Orianna, and when we see the replay, you'll see that KT actually zone away the damage from the smart play in the team fight.
Yeah, and also with Deft able to rain a whole lot of terror into that backline as well and make sure they couldn't get the work done, but let's check it out.
So we see here some recalls being channeled. We know they were poking around. Watch what happens after the Realm Warp. Viper is on the bot side of the fight. He pops his ultimate. We know he's going to be just fine. Viper and Chovy are together. They are the damage threats. A Q from the Varus puts both of them on 400 health. They're out of the fight. Now Tarzan and Sword are fighting 2v5 with no damage to back them up, with the Orianna afraid of getting in range. So purely the Q there from the Varus being able to hit both carries and that little bit of harass onto both of them forced this positioning to be no value out of an unkillable Mundo, no value out of Tarzan's ultimate and Guardian Angel. KT just outthink them in the team fight.
Yeah, really nicely done from KT, and now they've got 6 items on Deft. Death's Dance to come in as item number 6. I love it. Give all your health back just from 1 Q landing. Sounds pretty good to me. Means that he can't get bursted out as easily as well, meaning that Chovy's Shockwave not going to have as much of a chance of taking him down. I told a lie in the last team fight. Chovy did manage to hit Smeb, but it was a good Black Shield coming in from Marta to deny the knockback, making it look like it only landed on to score. But that Flash Gnar coming in from Smeb bought all of the time and space and killed Tarzan almost on its own, as the Gnar play from Smeb over the last 3 days has been so good to watch.
Orianna, when you're able to pull off what was effectively a flank with the Realm Warp, is unreliable. We did not see 2, 3, 4-man Shockwave. Like you're trying to say, Atlas, we saw minimal value. Smeb just continuing to scale here. 48 AD now up to 373 AD on the Gnar.
Yeah, he's huge. Has that GA. 6 items there as well. Never move Doesn't bother him at all. His sword's on the bottom side of the map. Smeb getting some free autos. Does need to be a little bit careful. Throw down some respect for Tarzan, who's doing a lot of damage now as well. Yukal splitting in the mid lane. The 2 inhibitors means that this is such an easy play to make. As Sword, he feels like he's bought some time now for Griffin. Of course, this wave's going to push back as a super minion wave. However, Griffin will be able to group up together, try and get stuff sorted out.
Viper's actually gone for a stone plate here just to do more tankiness. It means the Orianna damage needs to be the big carrying factor. Sword's behind.
Yeah, they're going for the flanking play here as Deft throws the ult forward, finds the piercing arrow. Sword's just going to jump onto Deft. This is what you were talking about. Can be the problem, but unfortunately for Griffin, it's just not enough. And KT, they get the disengage that they were looking for.
Orianna can just never get in range to actually use command, protect, or threaten with the shockwave. So there's no damage to follow Sword. A full disengage from KT, and now KT want to disengage just the Baron.
Yep, Realm Warp, this is going to go down so incredibly fast. Yes, you can see it, Griffin, but now you see it, now you don't. The purple worm is dead, and that's how you avoid a smite battle. Kill it in about 2 seconds.
These rotations, fantastic from KT Rolster. Again, the Realm Warp play has been inspired from Yukal on the rise. Watching Griffin still have this teamfight comp, but never be able to put all the pieces together for the puzzle. The puzzle is so close to being put together. The KT Rolster are redefining the canvas again and again, and could win this game one.
Well, they're going to find the last inhibitor turret on the top side of the map. Like you were saying, Yukal, he once again learnt from FLICKR. The Realm Warps were good from him in the Telecom War. His Aatrox was good in the Telecom War. Yukal learnt from it and is able to demonstrate it in their next match. Happens yet again. It's going to net them another inhibitor turret, but the Baron buff is the huge problem here. We've got 2 inhibitors down. We're soon going to have 3 Baron-empowered super minions to knock on the front door of Griffin. Oh man, this is so non-interactive as well. Look at Tarzan's health bar. It's only a W-empowered piercing arrow away from just being dead. There's all 3 inhibitors, and KT are suffocating Griffin.
Pushing in here, they're not going to opt into a clump, you'd imagine, KT. It's about the only way they can lose with this Baron buff.
And Smeb just playing so aggressively. Chovy goes down without being able to press any buttons at all. Nexus Turret 1 is dead. Nexus Turret 2, sure to follow if Deft throws any autos at it. And Smeb still just playing with fire. Yukal flashes forward and explodes Lahens. It was opportunistic, but it was beautiful as Griffin now have to try and defend an open Nexus. Inhibitors are going to be respawning, but this is so dangerous. And despite getting to the late game, despite getting to where they wanted to be, it's still KT able to team fight Griffin in the late game and take home the victory. Nexus at half health, Smeb just playing with the players of Griffin, and Tarzan relegated to the fountain. See you later, KT win game 1.
What a victory here in game number 1. KT Rolster, they draft for the early game just like they did last time, but this time inspired play in the late game is how they close it against Griffin. 3-0 over 3 games are KT. Griffin, they got to what they thought was the promised land. We were all ready to give them game 1, but it wasn't quite enough to close it out.
And we were prophesizing earlier in the game that both of these teams could be going to Worlds. Both of these teams most likely going to be in playoffs here at the LCK. Man, you can imagine after watching this game, we want this as the final. I want as many of these matches as we can possibly get. Griffin got so close, but KT with their Baron calls, with their smart play, oh, so good to watch from both of these squads. So happy that this is a best of 3 and Griffin can strike back.
Not sure if Griffin would RSVP that same best of 5. KT are the one team to make them look susceptible. They beat them in the early game, 3 games in a row. We thought it had turned on the Baron steal there from the Swain of all people. And yet, when it came down to the clutch fights, Griffin couldn't fall back on team fighting. KT were able to be so inventive with the Realm Warp on specifically the fight where they split away the Orianna. Orianna value this game desperately low. Back to the drawing board for game number 2.
And the lethality Varus looked absolutely inspired from Deft as well, being able to soften up that backline. So like you say, they had to play respectfully and could never get that damage in there. So many back and forth decisions made, and such an intelligently played game, largely from both teams as well.
Really fun one to watch. Can't wait to get into game number 2. I imagine we have some big damage numbers to show you.
Yeah.
We're ready to go with the break. Nice cheerfuls there from the Griffin fans. Lethality Varus will always do the most damage in a win. It's just the reality of Lethality Varus, and no, I dunked on Mundo for a really long time. But this was all about the Realm Warps. This was all about KT outthinking Griffin in the late game, which of all the ways for game number 1 to go, wasn't one of the highest ones in terms of likelihood.
Exactly right. And this damage graph would have been the same had Griffin been able to actually push in and win the game against KT, which was looking very likely earlier on. KT, of course, able to be very aggressive, get a lot of that damage in there like we were talking about, softening up backlines, but Lehens on the Soraka meant that the poke damage largely meant nothing until KT found the team fights that they were looking for, which were looking difficult to find at the best of times.
Well, good news, Atlas, and to our viewers at home, time to take a deep breath, get a drink, get back here though, because game 2, if it follows up that game 1, it's going to be amazing.
Exactly right. We are going to have a very short break, but I think all of us are going to need that breath that you're talking about. Guys, back after a very short while.